So I want to talk about anxiety and depression because it's a really big issue, as Chris was talking about. So many of the herbs help with that, certainly how you eat. We got plenty of people here talking about what affects your gut, which certainly affects the brain and can create anxiety and depression when you're eating junk. So I have found 3 causes of anxiety and depression. One is unhealed childhood abuse. The other is the physical, what I call physical self-abandonment, eating junk. And the third is the emotional self-abandonment. And that's what I'm going to be talking about, because we got plenty of people here talking about the physical. So the physical, as I said, the junk food and all that, it lowers the frequency of your body. It stops you from connecting. It disrupts your gut. It creates toxicity, goes into your brain, and there's no way that it enhances how you feel, your mood, and your ability to divinely connect. So let's talk about emotional self-abandonment. There are 4 major ways that people have learned, that virtually all of us learn to abandon ourselves on the emotional level. Almost everybody I work with has learned to harshly judge themselves. Think about that for a moment. Think about yourself. So many people tell themselves things they would never tell a child, or they would never tell a friend. Things like, I'm not good enough. I can't make a mistake, or it means that I'm going to end up on the streets. It means I'm not good enough. It means I'm not worthy. I better be perfect because people have to like me. And if people don't like me, it means I'm not good enough. Most of us have learned to make other people the authority. Other people have to approve of us for us to be okay, because most of us have not learned to give that to ourselves, because that comes again from that spiritual connection. We can't see ourselves clearly until we can see ourselves through the eyes of love. Most of us had parents who really couldn't see who we are inside on the intrinsic level. Our worth is not in how we look, and it's not in how we perform. Our worth is in who we are. It's in our kindness, our caring, our compassion, our integrity, our generosity, our honesty, our loyalty. These are intrinsic qualities. But most of us were not mirrored. How many of you had parents who when you did something kind or creative, they were to say things like, oh, I just love your creativity, or your kindness is so amazing. See, that's mirroring. And good parents mirror that to their children so they know who they are. Pardon me, the mic went off? The mic went off. Is it on? Okay. So thank you. So, okay. Where did it go off? Mirroring. Okay. So most of us did not get mirrored. We didn't get seen. I didn't get seen for who I was. Is it off again? What's going on with the mic? Is it on? It's on now. Okay. So I certainly did not get mirrored. I didn't get seen. My parents had no capacity. Oh, we got, okay, you know what? How's this? Is that working? Okay, we're going to do this. So, what happens with so many parents is that they project onto their children who they think they are. And so if they don't think they're good enough, then they look at their children and they don't think their children are good enough. Their children have to look better, get better grades, perform better, don't make mistakes, on and on and on. And so it's very rare that I work with anybody who knows who they are on the inner level, and this is a major aspect of healing, is to know who we really are, because everybody has an amazing soul, a spark of the divine within them. And when you really know that, when you can see that and feel that, you wouldn't say to yourself, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you got to perform better, you got to do more. You wouldn't be saying that to yourself, nor to your kids, because when you can see your own soul's essence, then you can see that of others and of your kids. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important to do this work before you have kids or while you have kids. I wish I knew it before I had kids. Inner bonding came into my life when my kids were adolescents. It wasn't totally too late, but I certainly wish I had known it when they were young, because I did not role model loving myself. And I work with a lot of people who they'll come in and they'll say, you know, I don't understand why I'm so unhappy. My parents were really great. They really loved me. They were really there for me. And then I say to them, how did your parents treat themselves? Well, my father overworked, and then he came home and he drank beer and sat in front of the TV, and my mother was a doormat, and she was a caretaker, and she gave herself up, and she didn't follow her passion. And so obviously the role modeling was self-abandonment. And that's where many of us learn it. So self-judgment is a major way. And then staying up in our mind. Many of us had a lot of trauma in our lives. And when we're young, we cannot handle big feelings like loneliness and grief and heartbreak and helplessness over other people. We just can't handle these feelings. We don't know how, and our parents didn't know how. And so we have to disconnect from our body. This is where the feelings are. They're in the body. We go up in our mind so that we don't have to feel them. And unfortunately, that ego, what we call the ego-wounded self, takes over. This is the part of us that is filled with fear and false beliefs. It's in the lower part of the brain called the amygdala. And this is where the fight or flight mechanism is. And that's the part of us that goes, you're not good enough. What's the matter with you? You didn't do it right. You didn't say the right thing. You got to do this. You got to do that. On and on and on in the background. That's the ego. That's the wounded ego, the wounded self. And so many of us are operating from that place in our mind. We're not present in our body, with our heart, with our soul. We cannot connect to our divine source when we're in our head, when we're focused in the mind, because the frequency is low. It generates fear. And that's where a lot of the anxiety and depression comes from this self-abandonment. If you were to say to a kid, for example, you're going to a party and you better impress everybody there. You better say the right thing. You better do the right thing. That kid's going to be like this, right? Going to be tense, going to be anxious. Well, we do that to ourselves. And if the kid comes to you and needs help, and you're in your mind, you're on your computer, you're reading a book, you don't pay attention, that kid's going to feel abandoned, rejected, anxious, depressed. That's what we're doing to ourselves.